Thanks a lot for having me moderate this really timely panel. Our panel, of course, is on smart cities. And as many of you know, Asia is home to 16 of the world's 28 megacities with populations of 10 million or above. And as a result, there are limited resources and increased urbanization, and many Asian cities are seeking to focus on transforming themselves into smart cities. So in Hong Kong, in 2017, the government launched its Smart City Blueprint, which set out 76 initiatives in 6 smart areas, namely smart mobility, smart living, smart environment, smart people, smart government, and smart economy. And over the summer, the Hong Kong government launched the second iteration of the blueprint, which set out over 130 new initiatives beyond those initial 76 to build on that 2017 framework. And so those of us in Hong Kong who are using FPS for payments or Leave Home Safe app to attend venues such as this one, or even the free public Wi-Fi, these are all, we're all beneficiaries of this blueprint. So today, our Smart City panel will cover the macro market opportunities that we are seeing in smart city investing, as well as with the benefit of these distinguished panelists, we'll learn more about some of the specific investments that they've made and where they see the investment thesis moving forward in the future. And because ATEC is a community of some of the leading entrepreneurs in Asia, we'll have our panelists give us some of their insights to the entrepreneurs as to how to best develop their business in this environment. So I'm honored to be moderating this fantastic panel in person and remote. Let me go ahead and introduce the panelists. So first, here we have Michael Kwok. Michael is the chair of Arup East Asia. As you may know, Arup is the global engineering, design, planning, and project management firm for the built environment. And in the pink shirt, we have Vincent See. He is the head of new ventures at Swire Properties. And at Swire Properties, he also manages their corporate venture capital fund. A man who needs no introduction to my left is Benson Tam, the chairman and founding partner of Venturous Group, a venture capital firm based in Beijing at the forefront of smart city technology. And joining us remotely in Hong Kong on his last day of quarantine is Dan Wong, the GM of Global Innovation at the MTR Corporation. Thank you all for joining. So let's kick it off. Because smart city is a name that is still somewhat new to some of us. Let's have Benson tell us a little bit about why smart cities and where we are now. So Benson, you've had an illustrious career from your early years as an investment banker and over 3 decades of experience as a private equity investor at the leading firms in Asia. Now, after such a long period of time and such a successful career, others in your position might have opted to take it easy a bit, retire or spend time with family, work on corporate philanthropy. Yet in 2019, you decided to embark on setting up Venturous in this brand new smart city tech landscape. Tell us what drove you at this time to set up Venturous.
Yeah, well, thank you, Thomas, and thank you everybody for taking the risk. Okay. Well, can you hear me now? So thank you, Thomas, and thank you everybody for taking the risk and wearing your mask. It's very uncomfortable, trust me. The reason is this. I think it's very clear from COVID, the world has gone digital. That's how you order your ticket. That's how you Zoom. That's how you have your meetings. So the world has gone digital. And what I'm seeing also is that this whole new digital economy is on fire. Now, I would like you to ask yourself one question, which is, if the whole world is going digital economy, where is this digital economy? And I tell you, I think it is in these smart cities. Because how can you have a city that doesn't have the digital infrastructure to be on this digital economy without all the technology, the 5G, the AI, the IoT, the augmented reality, everything? And that's why, if you ask me why, it was really the aha moment came in about 2017 when three of the mayors in China actually came to one of our invested company and say, we need to get our city smart. We need to upgrade it because otherwise we're going to lose out. And that was really the moment. Now, because of that, I think this will be a huge market. Our latest research is saying that smart city technology in China alone by next year is a 4 trillion market, 4 trillion US dollar market next year. Okay. 800 cities, towns, and districts in China for the last 10 years has been upgrading to smart. Not 10 years later, but 10 years ago. Okay. Of all the people, my good friend Michael sees it. Vincent is doing it in Hong Kong. And so that's why I think this is the greatest opportunity on earth right now. I would also say the other thing, which is if you really think about all the problems we have, almost everything is to do with the city. 70% of all CO2 emission comes from cities. Look at Hong Kong at night. The lights are ablaze. It's beautiful. Why? Because we're wasting energy. Simple, correct? And if you also look at the congestion everywhere, the pollution, almost everything is to do with cities. So that's why hopefully we're not just going to make money out of it. We're going to solve some of the most biggest problems. But closest to my heart really is that if there's one legacy I can give to my daughter who is 26 years old today, I want to give her a green city, a convenient city, somewhere she can perform her best because she can be much more productive in the city. So for all these reasons, I decided that, yeah, I should come out. And one last thing, I'm a failed civil engineer. Unlike Michael, who is very accomplished, I've never built a single thing, even though we were classmates all those years back. So this is my last hurrah that I can actually build something as my legacy, which is to build a city or more cities. So that's why, Thomas.
That's fantastic. So large market opportunity addressing one of the core origins of the problem and providing an impact that will be beneficial to your children and the progeny. That's wonderful. You touched on this earlier. I don't know if you want to elaborate more in terms of where we are now. You mentioned that China has adopted, many cities in China are already adopting the smart cities. So for some people here, it may not be as apparent how much development there is, how much is actually being deployed now. Do you care to elaborate a bit more about that?
Yeah, well, Thomas, it's very easy to not see it because do you see the technology in this room? Do you see the Wi-Fi or anything? You don't. You absolutely don't. The best technology are always invisible. So instead of telling you how big the market is and everything else, I would just point you to 3 places you must go to when you can travel back to China. Number 1, please go to Hangzhou. That is where they actually have a city brain that basically runs the city. It's almost like a bigger version of a control panel. They can deploy the fire services when there is a fire. If there's a crisis, they can do that. It's all at the command center, which they call Hangzhou City Brain. It directs the traffic. It does other stuff. Hangzhou, please go there. Especially within Hangzhou, there's a small little town just on the edge of Hangzhou called Cloud Town. 8 years ago, Ali Cloud, together with Hangzhou City government, created an experimental little town about the size of Taikushing. And this is probably the most advanced pilot town in China now. Of course, if you just go there, all you see is green leaves, boulevards and nothing else. Because like I said, the technology, you have to know what you're looking for. So Hangzhou, first of all. If you think Hangzhou is too far away, the next one, you have no excuse. You must go to Shenzhen. Okay? Shenzhen city government gave an island to Tencent. I just met somebody from Tencent, Paul. An island. And we lovingly call it Penguin Island. Okay? Just like Penguin as in Batman. So you should look at that because they are going to do all the experimental sort of really cool stuff in Penguin Island. In Greater Bay Area, likewise, there is a 20 square kilometer place, a roughly size of Hong Kong Island, that the government has given over to Baidu and say, this is where you can redo all the roads and try autonomous vehicles. So it's also there. Something else that is going to happen next year is Luohu. Everybody, I'm sure you've been to Luohu. You go for massage, you go for other stuff, you go for the things that you shouldn't buy there, right? Guess what? One of our companies is taking over the whole city management operation of that next year. The whole of that community will be run by one of our subsidiaries. So again, and if you want a super duper latest, cutting edge, future, almost smart town, then you should go to just outside of Beijing. Is this new administrative center, Xiong'an, that Arup and Michael are imagining and designing. And guess what? They fully expect to finish that city in 8 years. 8 years, they'll finish it. So that's what is happening. So I want to show people that it's not just 800 city, towns, and districts. It's not just 4 trillion. It's happening. And I think to leave you with the last answer is, in 5 to 10 years, if I ask my daughter which city do you want to live in, I think the decision is very simple. Just like you choose a hotel, you choose because you want one with a Wi-Fi, right? If your secretary ever checks you into a hotel without Wi-Fi, you say, are you dumb? Dumb hotel, dumb cities. 10 years later, my daughter, over my dead body, will I live in a dumb city. She is already living in Singapore, which is probably one of the smartest one in Southeast Asia. I think the digital native era, the young kids will always want to go and work and live and play in smart cities. That's why I think in 5 to 10 years, actually, it's not a choice. Whoever, just like a hotel that doesn't have Wi-Fi, have to have it. And whichever city by that time is not smart, will run the risk of being dumb. So that's where we are.
So we don't want to miss out, right? It's here, and it's going to be inevitable. It's fantastic. So Michael, you've left an indelible signature on Asia's most iconic structures, including the Bird's Nest in Beijing, Beijing Capital Airport Terminal 3, and closer to home, the HSBC Tower and Stonecutters Bridge. Now, with this Smart City Revolution, Arup has been working on 2 smart city projects in Hong Kong, Smart City Kowloon East and the Quayside. Can you tell us more about some of the technologies you're implementing into those smart cities?
Thank you, Thank you, Thomas. Yes, indeed, Arup has designed many of the iconic buildings or projects around the world. But I think the future iconic projects are going to be smart building, smart city, and net zero development. Simply because, we're not going to forever building the tallest, the longest, the biggest. I think the one is going to be iconic will don't respond to urban and environmental issues and really meet people's needs. And it has to be the smartest and the most sustainable. The 2 projects you mentioned, the Smart City Kowloon East and the Quayside, is 2 of the many smart building projects or sustainable development that Arup has designed. But to me, I think smarts mean a lot of things. It also means resilience, green, sustainable, happy, healthy. So it is, as what Benson just said, it has to be smart. I mean, nobody wants to live in a dumb city. And taking the two projects you just mentioned example, the award-winning KSI project actually adopts 40 innovative ideas in the design process, from passive to active design, and adopt some of the very innovative systems like the air induction units, the humidification system with solar hot water system, rainwater recycling system, integrated green space, indoor garden, etc., etc. So the project actually focuses a lot of the sort of people-centric technologies. And also, we focus a lot on wellness and sustainability. It is one of the first WELL Gold certified building in Hong Kong, really complementing its achievement in human health and well-being. The other project, the Kowloon East Smart City, actually consists of the former, as people who live in Hong Kong, the Kai Tak Airport, the old site, and also Kwun Tong, and also the Kowloon Bay area. It is used to be I would say, the sort of manufacturing industrial base district. It's people where people would not link as a smart city as such, but actually the whole district is very quickly transforming into a sort of a core business district for Hong Kong, really to support Hong Kong's sort of continuous economic development. So the project the approach we take is really make use of people-focused technology and try to transform this district into a vibrant, smart, and sustainable CBD2 of Hong Kong. And ICT and smart technology actually play a very important part of it. It's a real important enabling factor. Just to name a few, video analytics and machine learning are used to alleviate traffic congestion. Augmented reality is used to disseminate real-time information related to roadworks to various government department, general public. There's smart lampposts who collect and disseminate big data to help with more efficient use of energy and also resources, in turn to reduce air pollution. And we also use smart positioning and navigational technology to improve pedestrian navigation. So, I mean, it is a very busy district. So, I mean, you do need this type of smart application to help with the walkability. So the current technology really allows us to gather and simulate data for all the building and urban system, enable them actually to talk to each other. I mean, this really requires extensive employment for IoT device and computational capability. So with the help of cloud computing, AI-powered device, now we're able to connect all user and operator, and so they can directly communicate, and we actually allow the user's autonomy to be able to control the outcome. So I think this is now a very important juncture of turning that into a more sort of a smart management of cities and building.
Fantastic. Now, one of your projects is Neuron, an AI, IoT, smart building digital platform. Some of these technologies that you mentioned earlier, how they're all talking to each other, is that through the Neuron product?
Yeah. Well, Neuron is one of these, I would say, smart building, state-of-the-art smart building platform, which we developed. I mean, the main function it really is to generate data from different systems, but also to maximize the efficiency of the building operation, minimize energy consumption, reduce carbon emission, and promote healthy environment. It is the integrate BIM, IoT, and data analytics together, and really also be supported by domain expertise. I mean, Arup, we have many domain experts, and well, in a simple term, it is a digital twin approach. But it also means that you can create digital assets alongside with your physical assets. And there's a lot of values come with that. I mean, firstly, I mean, it really achieves energy saving by using big data and AI technology. It will enhance building management visibility. I mean, you won't be able to control it if you can't see it. So to have the visibility through this digital twin approach is very important, and hence it also enables the data-driven approach and making response to the operation very quickly, either by human or by machine. I mean, once you have this data.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, Vincent, our Shanghai offices are at Taiguhui, and whenever I visit, and it's been a little bit of time given the pandemic, I've always been really impressed by how they've transformed the use of these buildings in a mixed-use environment. And as I understand it, Swire Properties also uses Neuron in its Taiguhui property in Hong Kong. Now, you are leading the charge. One of your two roles is leading the charge within Swire Properties to adopt these new technologies. We've heard about some of these fascinating technologies that have been developed or integrated by Arup. How about Swire? What are you guys most excited about in terms of integrating tech?
We're quite excited at Swire Properties to adopt a wide range of technologies. And like Michael said, it's about our customers, the well-being of our customers, the sustainability of buildings, how do we make our customers more productive, happier, and well within our properties in a sustainable and efficient manner. So we look across the range of technologies. With Arup, we've been working on Neuron for a few years now, and one of the companies to pilot the technology. Hopefully, one day on Benson's list, it'll be only Swire Properties, places that you have to visit first. So I'd like to add a fourth. If you can visit Tiantan, which is our new center opening in Pudong, it will have a lot of the technologies as well to help with the well-being of people visiting the district, including a wellness track and a lot of invisible technologies that will enhance your experience when you're in Tiantan. So we look at sustainability, productivity of our tenants, productivity of our customers, and efficient building efficiencies as well.
Great. And so then the other leg of your responsibility is heading the corporate venture capital fund at Swire. It's a $50 million fund that invests from Series A to Series C and focusing on prop tech and other areas. Tell us about some of the existing investments you've made. I think Pickup was one of those investments, wasn't it?
That's right. We started the corporate venture capital fund last year in the midst of the pandemic. We do see a lot of opportunities to help companies grow and to pilot them and to really embrace them and promote them to our partners. And so we started the corporate venture capital fund last year. It's a $50 million US fund, so it's a Series A to Series C. We've seen a lot of promising companies and coming out of Cyberport and Hong Kong as well. Obviously, we're a place where there's a lot of cities, a lot of buildings here, and we are one of the highest quality cities in the world. So we're able to sort of really leverage these technologies to make our buildings the best there are in the region, if not in the world. So other than Pickup, for Pickup, it's a great company that really helps us embrace e-commerce and store-to-store and store-to-door deliveries, and really help our tenants and our customers enjoy our facilities better. So we've also looked at retail analytics companies. We are in the midst of closing a deal. And we are looking, we've also invested in a sustainability technology company that optimizes the way air conditioning works. Sounds really boring, but air conditioning is about 20% of a building's energy. And if you're able to reduce that by 10%, it really helps us achieve the goal of becoming a net zero company by 2030.
And what other areas are not yet invested companies? What other sectors are you particularly bullish on?
Yeah, we are a few verticals that we're looking at. There's the B2B side of our business, which is helping our tenants perform better. So tenant experience, making sure that our buildings are safe, sustainable, and so we're looking at indoor air quality monitors or IoT that really enhances the productivity of the office. We're looking at retail technologies to really help our customers experience our malls in a way that are superior to our competitors, and also in a way that they feel well, they feel that they always want to come back. I'm sure you already do, but hopefully we can do an even better job there. And on the sustainability side, I guess all of our, whether it's our hotels, our residential apartments, and the office buildings, it's always, we're working with partners to make sure that we build effectively, we build safely, and it's something that would last the ages, right? There's a lot of technology that can be put into place where 20 to 30 years later, the buildings will still look new and they'll still be sustainable. And I think that Swire has been very proud of our ability to continue to do that and lead the charge there.
Thank you. So we've heard from the corporate venture capital perspective. Now, Benson Venturous recently announced 131 million Series A funding off of an original target of only 80 million. Tell us more about. We've had had Vincent tell us a little bit about his deals. Tell us about some of your early investments that helped prove out the thesis and how you want to spend this new fresh powder that you have.
Yeah. Thank you, Thomas. Our challenge is quite specific, which is, as I said, we are focused on smart cities, and there are already 800 of them in China. Roughly speaking, I need these technologies to ramp to at least serve 100, 200, or 300 million customers fast. So at scale is very important. Number two, in China, 8 years is a lifetime. Xiong'an, this new city, will be built in 8 years. There's a reason why it's 8 years, because roughly that's 2 mayors, like tenure. Okay, so we want to finish it in 2. So the question really is, how do you get that big in that fast a time? And to cut the story short, we take the platform approach. The platform approach means that it allows everybody to build at the same time. If you go to Xiong'an, all the cranes are doing. The hotel, the train station, the hospital, the fire station, everybody's building together. You have to have a platform. Number two, I need everybody to be able to plug and play, meaning the whole thing needs to be integrated. So that's why Venturous basically took a platform approach. And one of the things that we decided to do is basically, instead of doing a fund, which is not fast enough, is to do a group structure. Group structure is designed almost like the corporate equivalent of a platform. Now, within that, what we've done in the last, I would say, 26, 27 months, we were started in 2019, 4th of April. There's a specific reason for that. So we started then. We now have 4, I would say, mission critical technology company. 1, smart energy. Every single city needs smart energy solutions. That one is dominant in Tianjin and going national. And they are setting the energy standards in China. Number 2, I would say, is smart operating system management, which is basically saying it is complex data from all the different systems. So we have a company that's, again, the leader in the field, second only to Huawei in terms of what they're doing. And they have 70,000 employees doing it across 170 cities in China at scale, doing data. We also invested in a third company which is Smart City Management. This is the company that we have that is partnering with Shenzhen and taking over Luohu to run it. They have already tested running a 1 million community, roughly the size of Taikushing. And they have been running it for 3 years. And some of the results are amazing. Crime rate down 88%. Congestion down by a lot. Energy down by 30%. So that's what smart city management can do. So that's the third company. And then the fourth company that we are launching very soon is on smart building. So between energy, building, city management, and operating system, which is data, I think those are the 4 things you can't get away from a city management, from a city, smart city. So I think we have formed the core. In about 7 months, we form a core. These are companies that are not startup. These are all almost pre-IPO companies, except one. 70,000 people, 170 cities, covering millions of square meters of space and so on, at scale, because otherwise I can't get there in 8 years. So that's what we're doing. And then next thing, now that I have the core, what we're doing for Series B is that, okay, now we have the core. We can actually use the full core to build almost any other systems now. Okay, so we are starting to do that. And so this time around, we are looking for sovereign funds who are looking at the national level, and we are looking for big corporate institutions who share our vision. And so this time round, we're looking at it differently. The last time round, actually, we looked for all the family businesses because they are the ones who actually needed all of this because they have all the properties, they have all the hotels. This is the fastest and only way they can finish everything in 8 years. So again, I mean, very different approach. I think Benson is right. That is a very right approach for Swire. Likewise for Michael. I look forward to partnering with all of you. Yeah, I think also for the audience, we are now at about 1997 on the internet era as far as smart cities are concerned. And nobody knows what the future is like. So in a sense, we are all figuring it out and inventing it as it goes. But just like I still remember in 1997, a lot of people asked me, nah, this internet thing is just unreal. Forget it. This is all pipe dream, hot air. Well, I can tell you this is about 2 years away from mainstream. You'll hear a lot about smart cities in 2 years. And I think, as I say, this will explode. There's already a 4 trillion market. 800 of them are doing it. And the faster you get on the bus, the better.
Thank you. No, that's very helpful. Yes, I'm aware. Dan is next. So Dan, thank you for waiting so patiently as we've spoken. I think due to some of our experience watching the Zero presentation, we wanted to make sure we get you all at one time and not go back and forth so much. So MTR, we've talked a lot about buildings and different parts of the infrastructure. Now MTR is at the forefront of new mobility efforts and is integral to the implementation of smart cities, not only in Asia, but in Australia and Europe as well. I was looking at your last annual report, and MTR pointed to a number of vectors that would fuel its overall long-term growth, including rail tech and mobility as a service. Can you tell us a little bit, that annual report didn't go into that much detail, so can you tell us a little bit more about what you are doing to integrate mobility as a service and smart city tech into your offerings?
Sure, I'd be happy to share. It's very clear that the way people are traveling in the future, even now, I mean, the way they will travel, the choices of different transport modes, their expectations are changing before our eyes. So it's very clear for us, even as a provider like an MTR, we need to start looking into these new areas, right? And we have, kind of from a long-term planning perspective, we're looking out 10 plus years. And in fact, in the early of last year, right before COVID, actually, we shared a kind of a future of mobility vision and a roadmap that really maps out the way that we're looking at how travel patterns and the required technologies will change over time. And sets a roadmap, I think, in terms of our view of the industry overall, drawing on top of our experience. But at the same time, this is also the roadmap that we're using to then plan our investments in a very broad set of different areas, including technology. I guess I would encourage everybody to go take a look. It was actually presented at Davos last year in terms of future mobility. So that kind of, you take a look and you can kind of see the longer term path. But this is something that I also maybe want to tap onto what Benson said at the very beginning. This future mobility is not way in the future. It's happening before our eyes. And so we are actually doing things today that is making this a reality. And I think this is very, very broad, but maybe I'll draw 2 examples in terms of the things that we're doing today. Okay. One of the opportunities that we see, obviously, is that there's lots of new technologies that are happening all around in different segments, right? And lots of these technology companies, they don't necessarily understand the industry. And when you think about kind of what we do and what we operate, it's very, very deep expertise here. And, somehow, if you want to use technology in the right way, you need to bridge that gap. Okay. So one example we've done is that we have actually set up a joint venture in the area of using computer vision for both safety as well as for asset management. And this is a particular company, a leading signaling company, actually in Beijing. It's a listed company, as well as an AI company that's focused on transport. So we have a JV with them to co-develop new solutions. One of those solutions is a set of technologies and sensors that we actually are starting to put in front of our trains that uses computer vision. It uses millimeter wave LiDAR, and of course the analytics behind that. And we're using this in 2 ways. One way is that we're using that to enhance safety. right? And so we want to make sure, and I think kind of, those that are familiar to Hong Kong, the headway between, metro is less than 2 minutes. It's very rare to see that kind of distance between trains anywhere else. And we're always trying to make that even closer. And as you start pushing the boundary there, we need to rely more and more on technology to make sure that we have the right safety. So we're using it that way. One of the other big items that we're using this is in terms of our better managing our assets. And we sit on top of lots of assets, and that's actually a big part of our cost. And to the extent that we can do things like conditional maintenance, predictive maintenance, we're going to then be able to lower our operating costs and then continue to offer public transport services to the public at a very, very low cost. So we're using this type of technology also to scan our tunnels and the trackside underneath to make sure that we detect faults before it happens, to make sure that we provide the right alerts. And so that's kind of one thing that we're doing. And what's interesting here is also the mode and way we're doing that. Certainly, MTR, we've done lots of joint ventures, lots of public-private partnerships, but I think this is now one of the first times we're actually doing this in the technology sector. And so this is kind of us then taking the next step. So that's kind of one example I wanted to draw out there. There's another piece that is kind of top of everybody's minds today. I'm sitting right now in quarantine, right? And so the pandemic has forever changed the way people travel. And I think now more and more safety is a concern for both passengers as well as operators. And so now we are starting to employ more technologies that you traditionally would not think about MTR getting involved with. Things like biotechnology, things like better disinfectant solutions and technologies. And we have done another example, also using a JV model, right? The JV model is a way to kind of closely bind kind of our operating knowledge as well as our partners in a way to develop new solutions, right, that are not maybe out there today. And so disinfection is now important, whether or not it is, you've seen our disinfectant robots being used in Hong Kong, right? But even the technology behind that, the actual solution itself. We manufacture face masks with special nanofiber that we use to protect our own staff. And so we're deploying new types of materials for our seat covers. And so we've actually set up another joint venture, this time with a Hong Kong-based technology company that's more in the area of robotics and disinfection to help us move forward in this direction. So I think kind of things are happening today as we speak, as you start tapping into these new technologies, both in terms of using it, developing new solutions, but then in terms of new business models like JVs that are taking us to that next step. And so just like what's happening at what Vincent said at Swire, we're also looking at different types of ways that we can tap into the ecosystem. And so I think these are the things that are happening today. We even have a kind of a pot of money to use for technology pilots. And we've already worked with lots of startups in Hong Kong and globally to start trying lots of new cutting edge technologies. And so kind of we continue to be on the lookout, right, for new solutions to our problems. And I'm sure there are many in the audience today who would have these kind of solutions that we would look into. So if you do, please reach out to me. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much, Dan. I think, are we out of time or do we have time for one more question? 1 minute. Let me get, so just 1 minute, because you were the CEO of an AIAR firm and you are very, you're very aware of the technology benefits as well as the challenges to privacy. And so you want to give us a word about what our audience should be thinking about potential, data overreach in the smart city environment?
Yeah, data privacy and protection is such a deep topic, and it's going to be very hard in a minute to kind of summarize this, right? But what I would say is this, to the extent that digital is now taken over the world in the way that, for example, Benson mentioned earlier, right? At the core of that is your usage of data. How do you collect it in a responsible way? How do you manage that, maintain it, and then get insight from that? And so clearly kind of that's a key point. I would maybe say this. Actually, it's useful to remember there are different types of data. And I think many people tend to focus on consumer-facing data, consumer behavior, things of that sort, where there's lots and lots of privacy concerns. But I think kind of where we're seeing a lot of benefit and value is actually in more of the operational data. So for example, we're spending a lot of time focusing on the sensors that we have in our trains, in our stations, everywhere. And we're using that to do all sorts of things, provide better travel, better user experience, lower our costs. And I think kind of that's kind of the thing to be aware. And when you talk about kind of that operational data, I think there's always privacy concern, but the nature is quite different, right? And so it's very easy sometimes to over summarize. But I think there are different types and categories of data. Nature is different. And then the way that you manage the privacy is also quite different.
Thank you, Dan. I think we're just about out of time. I did want to save some time originally for the panelists to share some parting thoughts for the entrepreneurs in the audience, but I think you can come, and those of you here and physically come talk to our panelists after the session, and they'll be happy to share with you their thoughts. Thank you very much.